recently returned to a job that I was at for years. Had some months where I was away. And when I came back, one of my colleagues messaged me and asked me to chat on the weekend about something. And this colleague said that a significant group of the team of this small company that I work at want to form a union. I immediately felt unqualified to even know what it meant or what the implications are. When I bring myself back to that moment and thinking about it, my perceptions of unions are pretty abstract, and I would say the most coverage I hear of unions in my life is failed attempts at companies like Amazon or Walmart or these really large companies that employ thousands of people trying to prevent these unions from forming. And that's about all I knew. So this colleague shares that this is happening. People have been meeting and talking and discussing and going through these steps to form the union, and asked if I wanted to be a part of it. So I was able to ask some questions. I was able to do some research, learn more about it on my own, and I really wanted to share what I've learned and tell that story because I think it's really fresh and new in technology for unions to be forming. And I think it's this really interesting idea that the more I learn about it and the more I thought about how developers and designers and support people and marketing people exist within tech, the more I realized how important it is to me. Now, usually I talk about programming topics, but this is more about the human side of work and less about the code side of work. But it's just as important. The first thought that I immediately jumped to was, okay, I'm not qualified, I need to learn. The second thought was, what are the trade-offs? What are the benefits and what are the costs? Because I think when you introduce a change, especially a formal change, which is what a union is, right? A union is this formalized change where a group of non-managers are recognized by the business owners and managers that then enter into formal negotiations to put together contracts that are agreed upon by the workforce and the managers. So the collective workforce says we want cost of living increases that are on par with inflation every year, let's say, for example. If I just go to my manager goes, oh yeah, that'd be nice, let me see what I can do about it. Maybe they talk to their manager. Okay, that probably won't gain much traction. But if you have the entire team unionize together and say, this is really important to all of us, we want a cost of living increase annually, that carries a lot more weight, right? That makes it a lot more possible. So that's what this idea of a union does. It's this formalized process for trying to advocate for a better workplace. That's the benefit, right? Working together with colleagues to determine how can we make this a better, more sustainable workplace. The cost of it is kind of multi-sided. And one is there are union dues, which means that in order for the union to keep operating, the union needs to be paid, right? They need money to employ people like union reps and people who make all this possible and are able to support the union forming. So that costs some money, and those people need to be paid for their work too. The way that happens is by paying union dues, and usually that's a percentage of salary that goes to the union. And so that's like the immediate first stopping point for people, right? When talking with different friends and colleagues, it's immediately, why would I pay somewhere from 0.5 to 2% of my salary to some organization? That's a significant amount of money. It's hundreds, it could be thousands of dollars. That seems off-putting. It seems like a point of friction. But then this thing becomes immediately clear, which is that through the bargaining process of the union, when a contract is formalized, a cornerstone bargaining aspect is increasing salaries to cover the cost of union dues. So someone put it to me one way, which is that no person within a union would agree to a contract that didn't cover the costs of the union. to me then immediately takes it and says, oh, okay, yeah, it'll pay for itself. But not only will it pay for itself, it will help us solidify what we as a workforce need and want, and then be able to bring that with more weight behind it than just a single person going to their manager and having these sort of siloed conversations. Then the next question I was wondering is, okay, does this change my relationship with the managers and the leadership of the company and the owners? And that's to be seen, right? Like, I don't think it will in theory, but that's to be seen, and I think is something that we'll find out. And I think it's new in tech, and I think it's new within the way a small, scrappy tech company works to have a unionized workforce. I don't really know what that's going to be like. So maybe I'm sometimes could disaster think the worst case scenarios of how that could go, but honestly I think it'll be fine, and we'll see. And I think a big part of my mindset throughout all of this is learning and trying something new and pushing forward how the tech industry works, setting a precedent for what it's like to have a tech company unionize. But let's talk about the specifics of how it's been going. So where I work is a space called Cartel. It's an e-commerce platform where people can set up online stores and sell things. You get an online shop. You can also sell in person via the app. You add products and orders and payments are processed. The company and the platform's been around for well over a decade. It's like a stable, mature place in terms of having a solid user base and regularly making it better. That's where I work. And this union that's been forming is called the Big Cartel Workers Union. And the people who started it have been working over months and months to bring us all together, reach out to people, to understand their interests, to educate them, to get them involved in the efforts that are needed. And that's been this sort of thing that's happening at nights and on the weekends, because there needs to be a boundary between work and then this organizing that's happening outside of work. Those organization efforts that people have been doing to collectively bring us together and engage interest and see if this is even possible, I think has gone really, really well. It's like a very significant majority of the workforce is interested in forming this union, and most of them are actively engaged in the weekly meetings and trying to make this happen. That was the steps that happened, and they formed the Big Cartel Workers Union, and then did some contact and outreach to different unions to see what are our options. And the union that stood out to the people who are organizing it, and I fully understand why, because the people that have been supporting us, our union representatives, have been really fantastic, really kind, supportive, and energetic, and just immensely helpful through the whole process, is OPEIU. Through them is Tech 1010, which is a local chapter of OPEIU that focuses specifically on tech. And through them, Kickstarter United formed, which is Kickstarter's workers union. Code for America's union is part of Local 1010, and it's a solid community of people who are interested in organizing workforces to unionize and advocate for better workplaces. Now that the Big Cartel Workers Union decided to go with Local 1010, the next step in the process is to get the union recognized by the businesses, managers, and owners. Now, voluntary recognition means that they acknowledge the union exists and that they will go and bargain with the union. So when it's time to come up with a new contract, they will show up and be at the table with the union, which will include union representatives and people who are involved and engaged that take input from the whole union to then work towards this updated contract. We can get voluntarily recognized where the owners and managers say, yes, we recognize this, we will work with you. That's one option. That's the easier option. That's what we're currently seeking to do right now actively, is have voluntary recognition from the owners of the business. That would be awesome, great. Simple, it's clear, both sides of it are learning this, right? It's the first time this is happening at Big Cartel. There's not a union, I don't think many people have worked with unions or been a part of a union before, so it's new. So there's learning to do on both sides, but that's what we're actively doing. Now, if the owners don't voluntarily recognize us, what happens then is that we would file for an election at the National Labor Board. That is this more structured legal process where a formal vote will happen where the workers at Big Cartel would vote whether or not to unionize. And if that passes with the National Labor Board, which is this federal institution, that formalizes the union, and then they have to be recognized by the owners of the business. So it's like, you can do it the quick way, or it can go this formalized process where that'll happen. That's where we're at, seeking recognition. And as part of that process, the people who have been involved with the union forming sign these authorization cards, authorize and say, yes, we want to be a part of this. And getting a supermajority of the people at work on board was so exciting and so bolstering to these efforts. And hearing what people have said since we've announced it, which happened on Wednesday, December 1st, has just felt so validating and exciting. So we got these people campaigning to sign these authorization cards, which effectively says, yes, I want to form this and be a part of it. So then we took that, we wrote a voluntary recognition letter, most of which is on our website, that says, here's why we want the union to form. Sent that to the owners of the business, and then announced it to the public, shared it with the company at large. It's just really exciting to get support internally, externally, people sharing on Twitter, just talking about why we're excited, what this means, what it could mean, just being part of this movement toward organizing collectively. It's just been super special and amazing. That's why I'm making this video. I want to share it. I really don't think a single person at the top or a small subset of people at the top really know what the best interests are of the entire workforce. I think it's the right thing to do. And I'm excited and I'm curious and I'm nervous and I'm not sure what's gonna happen. But where we're at right now is it's Friday, it's December 3rd, and for our voluntary recognition campaign, we're going and we want to know by December 6th whether or not the Big Cartel Workers Union is going to be voluntarily recognized. We're just trying to get the word out, spread the information, and show that this is the right thing to do, that the values of the union align with the values of the business, and that to have a sustaining, great place to work that builds tools and supports people who make and sell things online, that unionizing will be in the best interest for everyone involved in the equation. What's centered at all of this is this sort of this care and compassion and this desire to make it better for all of us. And when I think outside of myself and I think outside of my immediate small little world of, you know, what's going on in my life, if I uncenter myself and think about all of my colleagues, if I can be a part of trying to advocate for all of them and make it better for all of us instead of just advocating for just myself, I will gladly do it. We're gonna collectively do this in a respectful, positive way to make things better. And I love it. That's what I'm all about. It gets me excited. It has me more excited than I've ever been about being part of this. Recognition is the beginning, and then it's about these bargaining and renewing contracts and steadily, sustainably working towards making it a better and better workplace. If you have any questions, let me know. If you have any comments, would love to hear them. And yeah, thanks for tuning in and following along. I really appreciate it.